Today's chat is brought to you by, well, all of your support. Through the patronage you provide the Focus Fire chat team through Podbean's crowdfunding, we are able to provide you with the weekly podcast as well as the website and other aspects of Focus Fire chat. If you have any interest in becoming a patron of the FFC, please be sure to visit our website and click on the support link. Even a single dollar helps, and for those of you who are already patrons, thank you again for your generosity. You may have heard the whispers of guardians gathering in the shadows, exploring the mysteries of this world and the worlds which surround us. We are all in search of truth. Sometimes we need to focus that search, focus that fire. And so we come together. Join us. Join the discussion. Welcome to Focused Fire Chat. Welcome back for episode 163 of Focus Fire Chat, recorded live on March 29th over on twitch.tv/FocusFireChat. As always, I want to give a big shout out to our live chat over here with us tonight. Thank you so much for joining us once again. Our topic for tonight's chat is going to be a look at ghosts and their guardians. But first, let's run through a quick introduction of those who are on the show for tonight. As always, this is your host, Blue Crew 86. Next up, we have our own master of social media, the one and only Green-Eyed Music Lover. Green, how are you doing tonight? How's your week been?
We finished the strike, so it's all good. If you're in live chat, you understand. If you're not in live chat, just know that if you understand the mechanics of the game and the strikes, I love you. If you don't, I don't want to ever run into you in the open world, and we run strikes together. Learn your stuff, people. Learn how to run the strikes.
Mechanics, they exist.
They exist for a reason.
Public events, please.
Yes.
God.
Oh, God.
We have a quick reference guide that you can get if you just ask us. That explains all the road public events.
I have that on like speed dial on my phone. I know exactly where that is.
Love that item, or love that picture. Well, rounding out the usual team, we also have our good buddy, the lore content cop himself, Beard Grizzly. Beard, how are you doing?
Oh, running strikes. Trying not to scream at people either.
Yeah.
I need precision kills because I need my Oxygen SR3 because I want to feel like the good old days of Dead Orbit.
Oh my God, it's so nice.
Pledged to them for 1 week when I could get the hung jury and never looked back after that.
It's such a nice scout rifle. I don't think I've taken mine off since I've gotten it. Not to mention the lore entry on it is amazing.
Yeah, it's actually a really good lore entry as well. I've already read that, but we all know that I cheat for that stuff. So whatever.
What?
It's fine.
No. There's not a website
for that stuff.
It's
not like we were just talking about that pre-show or something. I don't know what we're talking about anymore. Otherwise, I think this week can be summed up as, why am I so tired? But that basically, like, up to this point right now where I have no concept of time anymore. Like, I'm just tired enough that I'm like, has it been 5 minutes or has it been 50? And I don't know anymore. It's this really weird feeling. Anyway, before everybody thinks I'm nuts, even though y'all know I'm nuts, maybe we should get this thing going.
Yeah. Well, Green, I know you asked a two-parter this week. What did we get back from that?
I mean, it's a two-parter because we're talking about two partners. So we're talking about ghosts and their guardians. So this week's community question was, who is your favorite ghost/guardian combo? And if you could choose any ghost in the Destiny universe to be your own, who would it be? And not surprisingly, pulled pork showed up a lot.
Oh, note my surprise.
It's fine. It's fine.
Actually, just note my disappointment. That's really what this is about.
Beard, this is fine, because if pulled pork is everyone else's ghost, it means he's not yours.
Yeah, okay.
I mean, that's a fair point, actually. I see where Green's going with that logic, and I appreciate it.
And the Veru's trying to be like, I can explain. He doesn't. He explains in chat. He explains in his answer, and it was Dancing Veru, who's just like pulled pork and Uldren. He said, I chose pulled pork because he's open-minded and thorough, and I wouldn't be a guardian that would cause a continuation of him getting bullied by other ghosts, which might be the case when they find out who he'd resurrected. So, I mean, yeah, I totally get it from that standpoint. Nero said Rezel and his ghost, and he really likes how they communicate in the field and strategize against enemies. Aldrin and Pork Pie, of course. Marcus and Dee Dee was another one that showed up. Mm-hmm. And Frigger wanted Segura or Peach as his own ghost, which would be cool. Peach would be hilarious.
Peach would be amazing. That would be so funny.
Peach would be awesome. And there's going to be ghosts that we talk about tonight in the episode that don't have guardians with them. Or we're not going to talk about the ghosts that don't have guardians, is what I'm meaning to say. And Peach is one of them.
Would it be? Are we? Do I dare reference that thing?
What thing?
Oh, everybody wants me to reference that thing, I guess. Our charges are gone, but we're still creatures of light, no different from the one you carry in your pocket. Don't say it out loud. Some of us go our whole lives without finding one. Show some respect. Don't talk like you're better than me. You're in here too.
You're in here too. I love that line. You're here too.
That's as far as I like to go with that one.
That's Peach, though, isn't it?
No,
that is from
Orin.
The Long Walk.
That's Orin when she's confronting
the
9 ghosts who went beyond the heliopause or fate, whatever the word is that I'm blanking on.
Heliopause, yeah.
That one, thank you.
The hissing silence.
The hissing silence,
I still will contend that one of those ghosts is Dredgen Yours, if he even existed. What?
I can see that, actually.
I mean, a few people mentioned Yor and his ghost are the combo that they like, which is, again, debatable.
Yeah.
Let's see her. Ikora and her ghost.
Why do you want... No. Do you just want either 2 siblings or a mom and dad that, That's some bad relationships right there. If there's any model relationship that you base yourself off of what not to do, that's it. That right there.
Listen, I don't have to talk to you for 67 years, okay?
I mean, that's fine, Blue. I think I'd be better off.
Look, you. We're going to be friends. You're going to be friends and you're going to like it.
Oh, God, I don't have a choice in anything anymore.
That sounds about right.
Yeah, that sounds like Ophiuchus having to resurrect Ikora every time. And
oh, my gosh.
I don't really want to do this.
Ophiuchus. Oh, God.
Why do you make me do this?
Speaking of,
You wanted to kill yourself.
Speaking of bad relationships, oh, my gosh. Anna mentions Tyra Karn and Don't Call Me Ghost.
Oh yeah. All right. I think that one's pretty well up on the list, actually. I think that's got to be it.
But I want a name. Then give yourself a name. No, you're supposed to give me a name. I did give you a name. It's Ghost. That's not a name.
67 years later. Hey, Ghost, how are you? You figure out a name yet? Shut up.
Shut up, Tyra. Don't talk to me.
Oh, God. It's so good.
So, was there any big trend on the one? Because I know it was what was your favorite pairing, and then what was the one that they wanted for themselves? Was there a big winner as far as the one that they wanted for themsells?
Segura got mentioned quite a bit. Most people were just mentioning, yeah. I mean, who wouldn't want is it Marina? What is her name? The actress.
Oh yeah.
From Firefly,
from Deadpool.
Mm-hmm. Who wouldn't want her as your ghost? Essentially, what a lot of it was.
Inara is pretty awesome.
Yeah, Peach was another one that got mentioned a few different times. Segura, most of the people mentioned Segura, which granted makes sense because the only 2 ghosts that we have heard in game, any significant amount in game, have been Segura and our ghost. Mm-hmm. So Segura showing up doesn't surprise me. But yeah, those were the 2 big ones at least. pulled pork, poor pulled pork, and Segura.
Oh man! All right. Well, we'll run through the intro notes as usual, and then we'll get right into it. In our last episode of Focus Fire Chat, we discussed the Stolen Intelligence lore book. If you enjoy the show, please be sure to rate and, if you can, leave us a written review on iTunes or comment on the episodes on Podbean or whichever podcasting app you use to enjoy podcasts. Reviews are extremely helpful as they not only let us know what we can do better, but help to continue to expand the FFC family, which allows more and more perspectives to be heard. To those of you who have already taken the time to leave us a review, thank you. As many of you already know, Focus Fire Chat is a gathering place where the intent is to offer a week-long, in-depth view of a particular subject from within game lore, with a special focus on the Destiny universe. This chat begins every Tuesday morning and runs until the following Tuesday, with topics decided by the group via a poll that begins every Friday and ends on the Tuesday morning of the new chat. Every Friday, at around 10 p.m. Central, we get together to stream a high-level summary of the previous week's chat for those who are unable to participate. If you're a fan of lore in all its various forms, be sure to also check out thelorenetwork.com, where you can find a wide variety of some amazing content that covers a number of different titles and mediums. This will also be the new home for the Focus Fire Chat episode note archives and articles going forward. Our next chat is going to be a discussion on the extra lore topic for March, Devil May Cry. However, as always, please be sure to weigh in on the poll this weekend to let us know which topic you want to discuss after that. Links to that poll can be found on either Twitter @FocusFireChat or within our Discord server. Before we jump into the information and thoughts that the community had about Ghost and their Guardians, however, let's have a quick chat about this week's Lost Lore. So this week for Lost Lore, I'm trying to think. I don't know. I didn't really have any particular thing written down. Made a note because I wanted to also think about, the neurological symbiosis, which actually chat's kind of talking about the more questionable aspects of, and I'm not going to go into that part.
Please, no.
Beard's kind of broken from it.
I don't want to.
But the concept of the psychological and neurological symbiosis. So like we hear that actually in, I believe it was Cade's stash mission from D1. There's a comment from Arghost about the neurological symbiosis being pretty far advanced, but it was basically like an Easter egg comment about how our Guardian doesn't talk.
Extraordinarily rare to get, just to
I know, and it's right, and it's such a good one though. It's in the elevator bank, right? You have to be in the elevator.
Just to plug it, because why not? I actually have a video up on the channel that actually has said voice line in it, and I go into those implications pretty heavy. So if you guys want just my full unabated thoughts on it, then there you go. I go up on the channel.
Yeah, and I might
tap
into you. That would probably be right, because it was probably about that time that it really kind of hit. But the implications too there is that, we get a couple points of confirmation. First off, there is a symbiotic relationship between the Ghost and the Guardian, which, I mean,
right.
Surprise, no. Confirmation, yes. So that was nice. But we also get a clarification that it is not telepathy. Like the Ghost, there are secrets that the Guardian can keep from the Ghost, and vice versa.
Right.
Which again, is it a huge surprise? Not really, but it's nice to know that that's been confirmed.
Right.
So there's that, and that's really kind of my point, was actually bringing up the Cade stash mission. And Beard, actually, if you already have a video, I'm going to defer people to that then, because a lot of that's going to be where a lot of the kind of the connotation of this entire idea really kind of stems from, is the idea that, as part of the resurrection of the Guardian, the Ghost inherently connects on a psychological level, on a mental level, whatever you want to use. And that actually explains, and that's going to kind of be a really good segue into the topic for tonight in general, because that explains a lot on why the Ghost and Guardians are so they're so emotionally charged with each other. So to kind of go back. So again, I will include a link to Beard's video, and if you guys want to chat about that, please jump in the Discord server and give us a shout. But I really am. I didn't know that, Beard. I didn't know you had a video specifically to that topic, but I'll totally use that as a get out of jail free card for this week.
I mean, if you want to be lazy, sure.
Yeah. Hey. Yeah. That's. Gonna keep anyways. So a ghost is so ghosts are described as sapient drones. Basically, that's the best way to describe one. And basically, they're small robotic entities that are from the very get-go of Destiny have been explained to have been created by the Traveler shortly following the collapse. Their mission, from what we've gathered in game, can seem to be the location, the resurrection, and overall general support of individuals who hold within them what's known as the ability to wield the light as a weapon, which are guardians or risen or light bearers in general. This support that they offer is seen in their serving as a companion, a librarian, a mechanic, a scout, a medic. They do a lot of things, and basically, as much as it pains me to disagree with Eris, they do have the ability to do far more than just open up doors. So in many cases, the guardians and the ghosts you see form a very strong bond, and that really kind of goes back to that concept of neurological symbiosis. Also the fact that the ghost and the guardian have a relationship that literally transcends death, because the ghost is the linchpin in what allows the guardian their paracausal capabilities. So for the guardian to be the guardian, they need the ghost. And that's where you see like the relationships, that we were kind of talking about before the intro, Marcus and DD. Sagira and Osiris, all these the guardians and their pairs, Cade and Sundance, Shiro and his ghost, where we see these interactions and these strong relationships being constructed is because they are literally have each other's lives in their hands. And the ghost actually has the ability to bring their charge back from the dead. And that's, again, that's a big important aspect in when it comes to the existence of a guardian. I'm going to kind of quote Ghost. There was a quest. I can't remember. I think it's one of the quests from D1. But Ghost says, every ghost is born knowing that we have to find our guardian. We don't know what they look like. Not on the outside anyway. On the inside, I'd always known who you were, and that together we could be something more. You hear this echoed in a couple of the new entries from Ghost Stories. Especially Kaiser, who is a linked ghost, but we don't know who his guardian or his charge is. But Kaiser reflects on the just like the kind of the beauty of humanity and like why they keep finding it so fascinating. You see this with the conversation between Sagira and Ophisculus, or O as she calls him, and how O is explaining that they complement each other. They are two sides of the same coin, if you will. And so with that being said, I kind of, Green, do you want to just run through the list of the known ghosts that are linked, not the unlinked ghosts, the linked ghosts, and just kind of a quick run through of them and our thoughts on them?
Do you want to go through just the ghost names or talk about ghost and their guardian?
I'm not really sure, to be honest. I kind of go back and forth on it because, we have there's a good number of ghosts that we know.
Right.
To kind of follow in Beard's footsteps as for a shameless plug, the Light Bearers list that I've put together has the linked ghost information. I will include that link. I'm going to just start including those two, that spreadsheet, and then the code translation spreadsheet. I think I'm just going to start including in all the episode notes because I feel like it's relevant. But that's
a lot of work you put into that too,
well,
so
there's that. I mean, there's that, but it's also it's like I tried to make it, have tidbits that technically if you spent time you could find it out, but it's like that's for me it's my cheat sheet, so I'm like, why not include it?
Right.
It does have this information in there.
I'm gonna go. I think the order that I want to go through is I'm gonna go through the ones that we know that are like major character ghost type thing.
Sure.
First.
Yeah. No, I totally agree with that.
So I'm going through and kind of highlighting them as we're going to go through. So the most notable ghost that recently is deceased at this point is Sundance, who is Cade's ghost. Sundance was similar to, we can get shells that are similar to Sundance now, and I'm blanking on a few of the design names, but they're the ones that have like the little, I call them like the coat hook. Like it's like the coat. It's like the little lip that you can use on your hook, or like you can hook your coat onto a coat hook, and that's essentially what they have at the top of them. Sundance was orange and red, mostly red, and we don't have too much as far as words from Sundance, like conversations, but probably the most notable scene that most people will remember is Cade hiding at Failsafe and pulling Sundance down. It's just that shh, like, get down here.
It's like the best cutscene with them.
Yeah, it's a super cute cutscene. So that is Sundance. After that, I would say Officius, or however you want to say it. Ikora Ray's very opinionated ghost. He is kind of a jerk face, and she's kind of a jerk face to him, and they get along not so well. They haven't spoken to each other in a long time, even though they're connected. But, as you do. Then there is Jinju, who is Anna Bray's ghost. Jinju doesn't have too much as far as lore that I can remember off the top of my head.
No, he doesn't. We got the name confirmed in the webcomic, and then I think she has a couple of like idle lines about Jinju, but it's like nothing. There's nothing super revealing. Like most of the stuff that we have about Jinju was actually from the webcomic.
Right. And that was just when Jinju and Anna when Anna falls through the ice and everything.
Right.
Sagira and Osiris, which everyone's fairly familiar with Sagira at this point.
Who's that?
I mean, only the most sassiest and coolest looking shell ever that I still have on my person at any point in time. She may not always
be
equipped.
Perfect.
I mean, you can't see it, but I'm rubbing dust off my shoulders right now. Anyway.
What about dust? Look, I don't need to know about you and the 9. Anyway.
I mean, that would explain a lot, wouldn't it?
Yeah, it would.
Too easy.
No, too
easy. Mm-hmm.
Anyway.
Dee Dee and Marcus Wren. Dee Dee is
possibly the most uncomfortable relationship we started to easily see.
Yeah. Why don't you take that one, Beard, since...
I'd really rather not, actually. So long story short on this one, this actually comes from the what was it, the fast track ghost show?
Yeah.
Okay. The major idea that we kind of see from this is that Marcus is kind of just like lounging around. He's kind of like, as most hunters do, kind of avoiding their general duties, and also kind of doing whatever they want to. He
says
has,
that like it's a bad thing.
I mean, I guess depending on opinion in those cases. The combination, though, is that they both seem like they kind of get along in some rights because they're both kind of lax in how they act. But Dee Dee definitely tries to scoop Marcus in the proper direction and make sure that he, does something. Even if it's something completely devoid of what she was saying that he needed to do. For instance, if I remember the entry as proper as I can here, he has like a thing to do with Ikora and like 2 other Sparrow projects that he has to do. And suddenly he sits back and he's like, "This is phenomenal. I'm going to make this ghost shell for you, Dee Dee, and it's going to be the best ghost shell ever." And Dee Dee's just like, "Whatever, you crafty rogue. Oh, it's so wonderful. All right, I'll just let you do whatever you want." And Marcus freaking like kisses Dee Dee right on the shell, and she's just like, "Oh, you, I don't even know about you anymore." And everybody else is just like, "Oh, I don't even know what this is anymore." Anyway.
Marcus has Marcus has a thing for everything. I think would be the best way to say that.
He's almost Drifter-esque in that respect.
Yeah, except he's not eating.
Say Drifter just wants to eat everything, and Marcus... we won't talk about Marcus.
Well,
let's just refer to one of the new Sparrow entries from Marcus. About Titan anatomy.
Oh God.
I remember when I sent that to Green, and Green's like, is that real?
Yeah.
Yeah.
That seems like something Cole wrote.
Those cases where you need an adult. Oh my god.
Oh man. Was it Dark Horse that did that? Was it Dark Horse? Which one was it? I want to find it now. Yeah.
I mentioned it and now I don't have it. Hang on.
Oh man, that would be helpful. So those are like the main ones that people tend to know if they're like familiar with at least a little bit of the lore, at least with the stories or the comics. We do have quite a few that are pretty much primarily lore-oriented ones that we haven't gotten a whole lot of experience with. Besides Pulled Pork, obviously people kind of know who he is. Even if they don't know his name, they know that ghost, thanks to Aldrin and everything. So Pulled Pork, probably the most infamous at this point, and currently MIA, along with Aldrin. And,
let's keep it that way. What?
Well, I mean, I'm curious. I just want to know, if Pulled Pork is such a dingbat and Aldrin is Aldrin, how do you think they will balance each other out? Or do you think Aldrin's going to be utterly disgusted all the time?
But that also goes back to Aldrin doesn't remember.
Yeah.
But personality would stay the same, though, wouldn't it?
I'm going to say from the information that we have from Ecdysis, yes. Because I can kind of talk about that already, because we already have those information pieces out. No, Ecdysis would be Orin.
Oh, that's right.
Like but Orin didn't get... First... Oh, yeah, okay, sorry. We can't talk about the latter part of it, can we?
First 3 entries that we have right now, I'll tell you for a fact, like, it from Awoken to...
Guardian.
From Human to Awoken to Guardian, she seems like she hangs on to most of, if not all of her general faculties, as is fairly typical. So I've been, at least in my mind, saying, she's going to be very similar in terms of like how, or Aldrin would be very similar in terms of like how he might handle. But I know that gets to be a dicey slope for sure.
Well, that, and I think also the challenge with Orin is that a lot of the memories that she does have actually weren't there when she was a Guardian, because when she first got back as a Guardian, she had no clue what was going on. Because that's why she was
as a mediary, though.
Well, not really, because she didn't remember. Like, there's, and I know I'm walking on thin ice because I've actually read the entire books on Ishtar. So it's there for anyone who's read it, or anyone who's curious and wants to read it. It's there. A lot of her memories actually get explained in the latter portion of the book, because what's happening when she first gets resurrected is that she doesn't have any memories. That's where Namki actually comes in, and that's where he's very instrumental in actually connecting her with the events and with the culture that she left, and reconnecting her with Mara and Shir and all them. Namki was actually a big component in that, and the memories that she has
I would argue are actually not present, or they're related to her by Mara later afterwards. Because if you look at the way that Orin treats Theron, for example, when Theron and her meet for the first time, she's like, "Oh, you have blue skin too." Like, she doesn't even know what the Awoken are. She has no recollection of that.
I get where you're going on this end, and at risk of continuing to tangent as hard as we are here.
I know, yeah.
The only other thing I want to say is that, like, it comes down to subconscious,
and that's fair, yeah.
if we're dealing with like the neural symbiotic, to kind of link this back to ghosts in a way. This neural symbiotic link that they seem to share. Quite frankly, there could be something in that lines back to the subconscious in a lot of rights. Again, I think that's where it sort of builds. It's not like in the some personality traits have changed,
right?
But the subconscious level seems to carry over whether they realize it or not.
Right,
so
and I guess
if you guys end up kind of playing or reading the book, that's where I would kind of read it. Anyway,
yeah, because you also. No. You're 100% right. The other example that I was going to say is Savin, because as far as the subconscious goes, like Savin, you see the example of what effect the subconscious is, or like where the subconscious exists, because it's called out that he meets his family and has no sense of familial duty to them. Like, and that's one of the reasons that, Mara and Aldrin kind of start having kind of the weird feeling about the Guardians, because like that was a direct like nod to, yeah, you could have a subconscious, that's, somewhat similar, but as far as relationships go, there's really no lasting memory, if you will, there. Or at least it doesn't seem like, and it also right. begs the question too of, does the proximity to true death have any play in how much of that, remains? The elasticity of the brain, when you're dead is a conversation too that I don't know if, we're overthinking it there. But I mean, and then that's related to the ghosts insofar as that's, related to how they choose their chosen, and, how they find their chosen. What does that exactly involve and everything? Because I know that's been a topic of discussion for God. How long has Destiny been out?
Yep, since about that long.
2014. I mean, speaking of Savin, you have your ghost,
which I'm sorry, I love the fact that Savin takes that ghost's response just on the face value. Like, he's just like, I'm your ghost. Oh, okay. Hi, your ghost. I love it.
Yeah, it is indeed. So, a few other. Pixie. This is getting into more of the not so well-known ghost and their guardians. Pixie is the ghost of female-oriented ghost, presented female, of Arianda Gris. I don't know if there's much about Pixie. Like, there's a lot of the ghosts are a lot of the times mentioned, but there's not a lot of personality given with them.
Yeah, a lot of these mentioned too. We just got like confirmation of connection to other guardians through ghost stories, because Ghost Community Theater, for instance, is where we get the information about Pixie.
All right.
Mm-hmm. Bahagari, also a female presented, is Honor Mahal's ghost.
Yep.
Which most people should know who she is at this point, because we got letters from her pretty regularly for a little while from the message postmaster being used as a postmaster. Also, she's just kind of a jerk face, and I still don't like her face, and she can be a Praxic all she wants, but I still don't like her face. Not all Praxics have.
She's never seen her face, but she doesn't like her.
I don't like it. I can tell you, it's not a pretty one. Strain is Cyril's ghost. So talk about a dark guardian. Mm-hmm. Does Strain actually mention too much when it comes to this? When it comes to Cyril?
So Strain is, like you said, is Cyril's ghost. We actually hear from Strain because Strain is one of the ghosts that was linked and actually abandoned their charge. Mostly because Cyril is certifiably insane and is obsessed with killing other unlinked ghosts, which, that tends to go over really. Ghost. Yeah, oh God, it's such a creepy mental image.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
But yeah, so like Strain is mentioned in regards to really the ghost stories entry, and that's the only thing that we see. We see. I would argue that Strain is kind of presented in kind of a remorseful attitude. We don't know the current location or current status of Strain, or even actually, I don't know if we even really know the current status of Cyril. We do know that Cyril and Micah did not get along, and they were, I would arguably even go as far as possibly to call them nemesises of each other, because Micah was portrayed, I think it was Micah 10, I want to say, was quote unquote always referred to as the den mother of Ghost. She kind of took it upon herself to protect unlinked Ghost as they explored and found their new guardians. And so she and Cyril, they clashed quite a bit. And we did get confirmation that Cyril was on Earth actually within her entry, because she mentions, she mentions that she was being chased by Cyril and she had managed to give him the slip. She also mentions that she would want to bite his throat out or rip his throat out. So, there's not a lot of love lost between the two of them.
There's a few different guardians in Ghost who don't have a whole lot of love lost.
Well, and this is a guardian and another guardian. This is something where Cyril was abandoned by Strain. And so Micah saying that, it would be the equivalent of someone saying that about Eris. It's something that it's a final death. She is more than happy to deliver that final death to Cyril if she can, because of the threat that he poses to Ghost and everything.
Hey,
yeah,
Blue.
Well, we haven't found him out in the reef so far, so maybe something happened to him.
Yeah.
Oh, no. Don't know.
In some cases, don't care.
Yes, very much so. I'm going to skip over the name Ghost, because that's going to take a bit. Neville, Finchurch Everest is Ghost, which is incredibly fitting to me, because I always view Finchurch as kind of a wizard. I know he's a warlock, I get that, but I view him as a wizard, like Harry Potter is.
He trying to portrays himself as that too. So
right, and so the fact that his ghost name is Neville, which Harry Potter fan here, that just makes me a little happy.
I was more thinking like Gandalf the Grey in a lot of rights, to be honest. Like,
oh, sure.
happy-go-lucky Gandalf the Grey, not like serious, keep it secret, keep it safe, Gandalf the Grey.
Gosh, serious Gandalf. That's neurotic Gandalf, which I'm sure Finchurch is probably a bit neurotic.
I'm sure he has his moments as well, yeah. I can't imagine that a Guardian in general wouldn't have some super serious moments at one point or another.
He is a hidden.
Right.
So he's got to have some sort of, well, maybe his reports are really funny. I don't know. I'd like to read his reports a bit more.
Yeah, I'm going to say all of a sudden he talks to Icor and it's just like, hey, I found this dance today.
Yeah. Hey, you would not believe what I saw inside the Traveler today.
Let me tell you something about this pre-Golden Age thing they called the twerk.
Twerk.
My goodness.
If we get that as an emote. Oh.
I don't need that mental image, to be honest.
Sorry. That
fits with the Titan.
Yeah, no, I know. That's why I said that, is now that's stuck in my head. So thanks for that, Beard.
Sorry, not sorry. Like, legit.
Pom, P-O-M, is Marin Mansanas?
Yep, she was on the Tangled Shore. She actually confirms something else about ghosts in that they can communicate via somatic transmissions with their guardian when they are not present. Because when Marin is facing off against the rifleman, Palm indicates that she or it I can't remember if Palm is a male or female identified. The Palm acknowledges Marin tells Palm to stay hidden, and Palm pulses a warm pulse in her hand while she's hidden to signify that, hey, I heard you. So we actually have a confirmation that there is a communication opportunity or communication manner in which the ghost can actually communicate with the guardian, even though they're not necessarily present, which was kind of I thought that was kind of a cool nod there.
Yeah. Interesting. Agu, the male presented ghost of, I'm not sure how I would actually pronounce this one. Keki?
Yeah. So, that's actually a fire team member from Shax in Twilight Gap, as well as the guardian who is, most known for revealing pulled pork to us.
Yes.
Also, confirmation that there is the internet in Destiny.
The internet in Destiny?
And Reddit.
Gosh.
Reddit still exists. And it's still salty about
I mean,
Crucible.
there's conspiracy theorists, of course, Reddit exist in Destiny. Where's all the conspiracy papers supposed to go since the Cryptarchy won't post them?
Since the Cryptarchy won't post them.
One of them...
Shimizu's got to go somewhere.
Mm-hmm. Poor guy. One of the most recently revealed ghosts is Gol, Gol, a male-presented ghost of the Emissary of the Nine / Orin. The question I have, and I'm sure this is a question that many people have, since this is the this cutscene from last week. If you were on top of your invitations from the Nine, is that ghost that falls to the feet of Orin, or falls at our feet essentially as well? Is that Gol?
I don't think it is.
I don't think it is either, because I think it is a vision that is given to us, not necessarily actual events.
Well, that and actually the reason why people were kind of interested in it too is the reason I kind of claim that the reason I kind of see it as not being Gol is because of the fact that it was randomly presented. If it was Gol, I would argue you would see either a Sagira-like shell, something unique to that individual. But the fact that the color of the shell fluctuated so wildly across everyone's accounts, I kind of see that as, I think, what you're saying, Green. I see it as a where was I going with this? I see it as a vision, not the actual figure of Gol. Because again, I would expect, if it was Gol, I would expect something more consistent.
Yeah, why wouldn't the colors be the same if it was the same ghost?
Right. Yeah. That's kind of and I know that's a really simplistic reasoning, but that's I like Occam's razor when I can apply it. Like, it just, to me, that's my personal.
I mean, the other aside to it, even though I read it as a partial joke, the long walk, there are possibly ghosts that work with the Nine anyway, so being the color variations and everything that existed, I know there wasn't 9 of them in terms of color, but you could have variation enough that could showcase that maybe those are the one of or representation of the 9. A
manifestation of it.
9. Mm-hmm.
Interesting. Tianchi, another deceased ghost.
This is a very important ghost.
Yes, it is. Presented male. It was the ghost of Shin Malfur.
Yes, and to be clear on that, Tianchi is the name given. It is not the actual... The ghost calls out in a Confession of Hope that it was not necessarily its name, which... So there's so much confirmed within these particular pair of entries. The thing is like, obviously we do have ghosts that are identified as unlinked. You have Link, you have Rin, you have a couple other ones that are part of the Spectral Network. But Tianchi arguably was a ghost that really kind of seemed like necessarily seeking loneliness, but he didn't necessarily expect to find a partner.
Right.
And so and I know Green, we've talked about this because it does somewhat beg the question, how much control does the ghost have over the selection process? Because Tianchi is presented as being overwhelmed by emotion when he resurrects the child, who is, I mean, I would still strongly argue is Shin. To be clear, that is an assumption. I think it's heavily inferred. I kind of, but just to be fair, it is not specifically called out as being Shin. But the process of his resurrecting the child, it was described in a very emotional way, not a rational like, oh, this is the great hero. Actually, Tianchi specifically calls out that it's not a great hero, and that's one of his questions about it is this what I'm supposed to do? Right. But the other thing is that it kind of confirms the idea that we've all had about the way that ghosts operate as far as energy. It seems within this card that ghosts they have the ability to resurrect other guardians, which would explain in-game mechanics actually, but they also only have enough capability to true resurrect one person. Again, kind of going back to game mechanics, it makes sense. You can resurrect other guardians as you're running through strikes or public events or whatever. You don't seem to have a problem with that. But as far as like true resurrection from the dead or whatever, it does seem that the ghosts only have a limited charge for that.
No.
Which explains Shin's situation.
Which, granted, Tianchi is such an interesting case because the emotional pull that he had for the child and for the parents and everything involved in that. But we also had the one ghost in Ghost Stories who thought he was accidentally resurrecting a fallen, but it was actually
that's your
guy.
Ghost. That's your ghost.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Was that for?
Yeah, that was your ghost. Your ghost was Savin? The one that was like, Savin. He was freaking out because he felt the pull of Savin, and when he went to resurrect him, Savin was buried underneath a vandal, which is hilarious. Like the entire entry is just kind of comical. But yeah, he had a moment of absolute panic because he's like, oh no, am I going to be the ghost of the first fallen guardian? Which, I mean, I know a lot of people are like, what? I was reading it and I was like, oh my God, if they actually pull this, like if they actually go through with this, it would just break people's heads. But then Savin popped up.
Yes.
That was really entertaining.
That was fun. Panza, another male-oriented ghost.
Yeah, Panza.
We don't know who the guardian was.
We refer to him as Don Quixote.
Yes, because that is from Windmills and Cranes, right?
Correct. Yeah, and actually, Panza is the character in the Don Quixote story. That is the aide to Don Quixote himself. But yeah, that's the guardian who is abandoned because he is upset, or he is convinced that the traveler is an evil monster who needs to be killed. Which that goes over well.
We have two more ghosts that have unknown guardians, Tam and Kaiser. Those two stories aren't nearly as, in my opinion, as tragic as Panza.
Tam's is up there.
Yeah, it is, but
because Tam is
just the
if
Don
I remember.
Sad story.
Yeah, because and I kind of lump the Don Quixote one in the same vein as Cyril's actually, because it's kind of Cyril is described as being like just tired. And, he's like, it's arguably like, it begs the question of like, I kind of read it as a way of looking at, can guardians have like a mental instability or mental illness? And it kind of seems to be like, it's technically there does seem to be the precedent there where, especially with the Don Quixote entry, there's a break from reality. Which is an interesting and very slippery slope, because there's a lot of implications there. But Tam is, if I'm remembering right, Tam is the warlord's ghost, right?
Yes.
Yeah. So that's sad insofar as Tam. I mean, I view it as sad because it's like Tam realizes the mistake that was made and then rectifies the mistake, but the cost of what it takes upon Tam is where I feel the sorrow, if you would, because she just she knows.
No. Tam was the one. Tam was actually the
or am I thinking
the one
of?
who that's somebody else. Tam,
is that another one? Okay.
Tam is the one who resurrected their guardian as the Cabal Lander.
Oh, okay. Yep. Okay, you're right. Yeah.
There we go.
Okay. Yeah. Tam is the one that has the Banff as a guardian.
Yes.
Yeah. Sorry. Yeah. Okay.
Waning 2.0.
Yeah. Waning
Yes.
2.0, basically.
The starts punching everything.
Oh my gosh, that's the one that she uses the Cabal Warbeast as a weapon, which is terrifying to read about. Yeah, sorry. Tam, yeah, okay. I was thinking, yeah, you're right. I was thinking of I think that one's an unknown one then, right? Is that correct?
As far as name, yes, it's unknown. Okay. The Warlord one is Kaiser, I believe.
No, Kaiser's the one that is talking about, Kaiser talks about the hope of humanity.
Of who's next, or
of where he hopes that they're going to go, like the potential. I think it's potential. I think is the entry of Kaiser's.
Struck by Wonder.
Struck by Wonder. Yes, thank you.
Okay, so those are the ghosts that are either named by their guardians or they named themselves. Then we have a whole slew of ghosts who are either just named Ghost by their guardians or just refuse to choose a name, like Iris Ghost.
No, you choose a name for me.
I'm just going to list off the different guardians that have ghost named Ghost. Technically, our ghost is named Ghost.
Mm-hmm.
Enoch Blast, or Enoch Bast.
Bast, yeah.
Yeah, Ariana 3, rest in peace. Drifter, which him and his ghost do not have a very good relationship.
I would argue they do.
I think they do. It depends on which personality of the ghost you're talking about. The red eye ghost, he doesn't. I think they get. I'm gonna agree with Beard. Like, I think they do. It's just they recognize that each other are really independent, and like the blue-eyed version of his ghost definitely cares for him in his own way. I mean,
right. It's just, I don't know. Drifter seems so verklempt about being resurrected hungry all the time that he's like,
well, he's also really freaking stubborn, because there's the entry where he's starving to death and he refuses to let his ghost help him. And then the ghost is like, all right, fine, whatever. I'll just, whatever. I don't care. Like, you're going to die and I'll just resurrect you because it's easier. But then there's also, right. Cause I was going to say, there's also the entry where he's first resurrected and his ghost impales another guy through the head. Like, his ghost kills another person, another risen, by running through the guy's helmet. So it's
a complicated relationship.
It's a complicated relationship, to say the least.
I mean, Drifter also had the ghost basically compiling all the stats from the first Gambit Prime test, where Joxer and his team
got sacrificed, basically.
Well, Joxer survived. The three others, which are not named, don't.
Right. And the other thing, too, with Drifter is we get the situation with Drifter's ghost actually really nicely explained in the new entries, because we find out exactly how his ghost got to be in the state that it is in. And that's also a really messed up story. Like, again,
assuming that any of that actually
happens.
Okay,
and fair, but the thing that I want to call out in that story is the fact that, remember too, that it was done at the bequest of the ghost. It wasn't Drifter being like, hey, we're going to do this, and, pinning the ghost down. The ghost actually requested that he cannibalize and augment himself. Yeah. So it's
I'm just pointing out what we know from that first cutscene. It kind of says that anything that Drifter could tell me ain't worth the time of day. It's like we keep saying on this show or something. Anything that the Drifter could say wouldn't hold up in court.
Well, that's fair.
Just long story short, anything that he has told us so far is
questionable,
speculation,
at best.
Postulation, questionable. Yeah, it just nothing good necessarily comes from listening to that guy at this point.
Mm-hmm.
Sorry, I'm trying to read through. I'm trying to read through the first card of Heaven or of Man with No Name. Just verify if it was arisen or not. And I'm not seeing the impaling moment. I see Drifter dying.
No, it's I'll hunt it down.
Okay. So Drifter, obviously his ghost is named Ghost. Our Guardian's ghost is Ghost, male oriented. Theron Vi is a guardian with a female oriented ghost. Tyra's ghost, who is hilarious. Even if they don't mean to be, because it's a male ghost too, which when I read it as if that sounds very whiny. So unfortunately I read it in my head as like a young teenage boy with kind of like the sassiness of a teenage girl, because it kind of comes off that way. And then there is also an unknown guardian whose ghost is named Ghost. But yeah, so those are the ones that we know that are linked. There are a lot of ghosts that are not linked. We mentioned a few at the very beginning of the show, namely Peach, because Peach is hilarious.
Mm-hmm.
But most of these guys come from the Ghost Stories books.
Yes.
Am I correct in that?
Yeah, real quick. It is in Heaven or Hell. It is after the second portion. It is a raider. It's not a risen. So the ghost mentions that the raiders are led by a risen. So I apologize. I was reading really fast and misattributed that call out. But the ghost, it says, real quick, he opened his eyes in the night air and took an even breath. You died, the drone explained, hovering over him. It was smeared with a dark, filmy paste. I brought you back. He stood up and looked down at himself. Same clothes, nothing hurt. The hulking wreck of the machine that had killed him sat in pieces a few meters away inside a dark, sooty crater. The body of an armored man lay sprawled over the smoldering open-air cockpit, his helmet punctured by a small hole about the size of the drone. So the ghost basically headshotted a raider and then rezzed Drifter. And yes, it was just a raider. It was not a risen. So to clarify there, yeah, I apologize.
Interesting.
That's pretty funny.
Oh yeah, no, I'm like, oh, okay, well, that kind of puts a spin on that ghost at least.
Yeah, I haven't read Man with No Name yet.
Oh, it's such a good book. It's such a good one. That's what I keep
hearing. I'm very interested to get there.
The connections between Drifter and explanation of some of his psychosis is so good. Like, it's so good. And then there's a lot of callbacks to the audio logs from the Allegiance quest. There's a lot of kind of cross connections there that are really, really kind of really sad, actually. There's a lot of very, very tragic events in Drifter's story that actually explain why he's kind of as messed up as he is.
Right. A fun spoiler / call out. I can tell you that Mr. Tomato is working on that book in particular right now.
I like that he took my challenge.
Yes, and we found an Aphrodite. We found somebody to play Aphrodite. So
nice.
That is good. Because I am too low of a voice to play Aphrodite, because Aphrodite is quite a bit higher pitched than I am.
Well, and she's described as being young too, so that's I love his interaction with Aphrodite in that book. The other thing, Beard, to pay attention in that book is the connections with the warlords, because oh my god, some things get called out and some connections are made from way back in Rise of Iron. especially with Fellwinter.
Right.
So yeah, that's the other reason that I really like that book.
Good to know.
So so here's the list, and I'm just going to kind of go through and name them off. If you two have things you want to talk about with them, there are a few that we've talked about before, whether that or not they are in the Ghost Stories episode. Most of these guys were in Ghost Stories episode, I should say. Anwar, a male presenting ghost. Balthazar, another male presenting ghost. Cassiopeia, a female presented ghost.
Real quick on Cassiopeia. Cassiopeia is from D1.
Mm-hmm.
Dejana. Yep, sorry.
Dejana. No, good. You're good.
Cassiopeia is where we also get the Siva ghost 404, which is hilarious. I love that ghost.
Is that the? Oh yeah, because that's when
civ.frag _ mem 404gh or something. So I just refer to him as Ghost 404 because it's error code 404, not found. I just love that. I'm like, yes, it's the Siva mites infecting the ghost.
Yes.
But yeah.
Yeah. Link, male ghost. Obsidian.
And Link is a part of the Spectral Network too.
Yes, Link is the one is he one of the initial ones that talks about the Spectral Network?
Yes, yeah. Link, and then I think Rin, is the other one that mentions it.
Okay. Obsidian, also a male ghost.
And Obverse. Obsidian and Obverse are mentioned with Cassiopeia, so those are both from the Rise of Iron Ghost Fragment.
Peach, our fun little presenter. Now, Peach is a mess. Peach was fun.
I do not refer to it as that.
Peach was fun to record, by the way.
Oh my god.
It was a fun one to record. Pup, which Grant, I don't remember who Pup came from or where Pup came from.
So Pup is from the Micah 10. Pup is a moniker that Micah gives the ghost. So we don't actually know the ghost's name, but Pup is the last one of her most recent litter, as she refers to him.
Oh, right, because she's the adopter.
Yeah, so she's the one that will adopt like packs of ghosts and then escort them, basically. Pup was the last one that after Andal was raised, she sent Andal and his ghost back to Tallulah at the city, and then continued on with Pup. And then she mentions that the group of ghosts were wanting to start exploring outside of Earth. And so she was going to probably find a ship and go with them. Because she also calls out that some of them had already kind of just wandered off as it was, and she felt obligated to protect them even though they were no longer on Earth. So Pup is the mentioned there. And as far as we know, we never got confirmation that he ever got linked with anybody, or it got linked with anybody.
Fun little thing to think about. And we've already mentioned Rin, another one of the Spectral Network ghost. Which, to remind everybody what the Spectral Network is, it's essentially kind of the ghost version of the Hidden for Ikora in some respects, in that it does surveillance and somewhat not necessarily spy work, but it keeps its eyes open.
I would argue that, Link definitely seems to be spying.
Right.
There's some of them on the
more
Spectral
so than
Network.
others.
Yeah, there's some that are pretty dedicated. So, the thing with the Spectral Network that stands out is that in the way that some ghosts are dedicated to the Chosen or the Risen, some ghosts will choose instead to dedicate themselves to the Spectral Network. So you have like Anwar, and then you have, I can't remember the other guy, Anwar and the other one that's in Pressure. Both were unlinked, but they were dedicated to assisting the speaker. I think Anwar was the cartographer, and then the other one was the deconstructionist, or it was flipped one way or the other. But they were like, one of them would help. One of them helps map out Earth and the environment and the system, whereas others will bring them reports. You have reports of Dejana, yes, sorry, Dejana and Anwar. You had ghosts like the ghost of Yagi's host. Who would come in and report, situations. You had the ghost of Saint 14, who would report in, you know, and so there's all this stuff. But then, yeah, Link and Ren, I want to say there was another one, I can't remember. But Link was definitely one that kind of mentions that, you know, in the same way that some ghosts will go for a long time looking for their companion or their chosen, some ghosts just, you know, they're more along the lines of what Peach kind of presents, and they choose to dedicate themselves to helping with the spectral network.
Yes. Let's see here. I'm just looking through some of them, some of the different spectral network cards themselves. Ren is a very tragic one because he's basically...
Yeah, Ren is the one that gets caught, I think, if I remember
Yes.
correctly.
And from Fallen Ground. Last frantic transmission of Ren, a brave ghost of the spectral network. So he actually is deceased now, or at least is believed to be deceased. Interestingly enough, we don't really have ghosts named Ghosts that are notable, that are not paired, that we know of.
Right, yeah. And I think the reason why, at least for my listing there, was because I kind of restricted the link or the list of ghosts named Ghosts to the ones that have like a verifiable, they refer to their ghost as capital G, Ghost.
Because, I mean, we have the Siva ghost, we have like the Ghost 404 that you were talking about beforehand. And there's a few others that have been seen out and about. But let's see here. Something that was brought up earlier in chat that I thought was interesting is that the concept of the creation of Ghost. And I know this is not an episode on Ghost particularly, but the idea of this is just a Spinfoil starter for you two. Does the traveler have the foresight to create ghosts that are specific for specific people, even if those people haven't died yet?
Sorry, what was that question?
We've kind of seen that with something like Uldren.
But is the traveler kind of not necessarily omnipotent, but have that much foresight to see Uldren dying and creating a ghost specifically for him, or is there more of a generalized this body so happens to match my configuration type thing?
I mean, there's the answer I want to give, and then there's the answer that I think might be more accurate. The answer I want to give is no. I think that it's they're created and then they do what any of us in reality do and search for the person that's most compatible. And that means that there's not necessarily a one-to-one relationship between them. I don't, I guess that kind of reveals what I think about the concept of soulmates. But I think that there is a compatibility issue, of course, but I don't think that it's a hard-coded, no, you are this person, because that actually gets called out in the debate between Peach and Balthazar, is because Peach kind of points out, if that's the actual case, then the Traveler's kind of a dick. Like, because there's that problem of, well, that means that you knowingly created ghosts that are going to never be paired. And that kind of is a problem if you're also supposed to be this great beneficial thing. Now, that being said, though, if you, realize we're playing a game called Destiny, so what is that? Is there a hint there that some of these things are predetermined? There's a lot of questions that I have on like a metaphysical level about the concept of predestination within the game world of Destiny, because you have an overemphasis on characters who have paracausal capabilities, and the blunt translation of paracausal in a predefined realm from a metaphysical standpoint is the concept of free will. You don't have the causal link that would technically define predetermined actions. So that being said, given that the ghosts are kind of paracausal as well, I kind of go back to, I really don't think that it's a hard-coded one-to-one relationship. I don't know, Beard, if that's similar to your thoughts, or...
No, I think it's like right in line. I think I vary a little bit, but honestly, it's so minor, it's not even worth mentioning. yeah, I think overall that's about right in my general feelings on how they would be linked up or what the Traveler would have done with them previously. I think they're looking, like you said, looking for something, but not an exact thing. Like there's a little bit of flex, but not a ton.
Right. Yeah, and I think
we also have.
Green. Sorry, Green.
No,
yeah.
we also have back in D1 the container in the Cade Stash mission.
Mm-hmm.
Where our ghost tried to resurrect that body.
Right, and that
and
was pod 10201.
Yes, and it said
the individual
no,
said,
so
yeah. There seems to be a conversation there too, and that's what's really cool, I think.
And the ghost could have resurrected that, and it said no. So, I mean, my question is, if it's a predetermined thing, if destiny is such a simplified thing to where it is the destiny of our ghost to find a single person on the planet, but it has the opportunity to have this conversation, it doesn't seem so binary to me. Yeah. It seems like there is flexibility within it, in that it is a compatibility aspect, because obviously there are ghosts that do not get along with their guardians whatsoever. So compatibility doesn't necessarily mean get along with.
No. And that goes back to compliments, the entry compliments, right? Mm-hmm. With O and Segura. And I see chat, I understand the reading into the quotes that chat is bringing up from like the speaker and then from other ghosts about like, I didn't find the one. I mean, okay, I'll be 100% blunt here. I can read those in the vein that they're being presented as, no, there is one. I can also read it in the vein of what I just got done explaining and say, you are ascribing a certain connotation to the word choice that I am not. It is entirely possible to read the same statement and have two different meanings. And that is a prime example of what I'm talking about. Because when the speaker says that you chose wisely, actually, I read that as, hey, you had a choice to choose from anyone and you chose this one. Whereas it's being presented as the definition of, oh, hey, this is your guardian. That's not the only way to read it. So again, thought exercise there for everyone is, reading it is in text is really difficult because you don't know the emotional context in which those things are being said. And the ones that are being said, like the speaker making a comment about you've chosen wisely or I've hoped you've chosen wisely, that context, even when I heard it the first time without, diving into the lore that I have since then, I kind of took that as, the ghost had a choice and they chose this, this guardian, this arbitrary guardian that they found in a vehicle in the Cosmodrome. I think I've never really seriously thought that the ghosts are restricted to a specific individual, and if they don't find them, well, you're SOL and good luck next time around. I think that's a gross, I think that would be a gross oversimplification of something that is inherently messier, and just doesn't seem to be the case, because you also have ghosts who are being told that they have to choose wisely because they have a lot of options. I mean, going back to the entry in Pressure, where Anwar specifically says that. So, I mean, again, I think it's a matter of how you're reading it. And I totally can see what you guys are saying, but I just, I don't read it that way, which is kind of the point. That's why we have different people reading the same thing, is because everyone has a different view of it. So,
yeah, I'm going to say between the Guardian and the Pod that I know we already talked about a little bit, and then between choice and whatnot. I mean, what you ascribe to the idea of one-to-one is that there are meant to also be, this might actually say plenty about the Traveler, I think, as a whole. If there is just a one-to-one,
true, yeah,
that would have meant that the Traveler bore some ghosts to be failures, because it also foresaw that these resurrected persons were also going to be failures.
Yeah, Beard, that's a that's a slippery slope too.
Yeah,
because that starts entering into omnipotence and
right.
that's, And I don't see the
that's-
Traveler as being that. Like, no.
And that's where I really have to say I don't think it's a one-to-one ideal. And I mean, here's the other general predicament that you run into even with like real life. I would say that like Blue and I are very similar in our general beliefs and whatnot. And if there were ghosts, if there was like a ghost that picked between him and I, and it would come down to like one or two qualifying things, I would really argue to say they would be very minor.
Mhm.
I could go ahead and say the same thing about if we were to talk about family members in particular as well.
Mhm.
I would look at like my father and I, because we are again very similar in our general demeanor, how we act, etc. The only thing that will really differentiate us in a lot of rights is our age. So what would be the difference for that ghost to effectively pick us? Then I end up thinking even like across the pond, or I think like across the country as well. There will be somebody that will have the same general aspects and thinkings and so on as what I have, because they may have very similar life experiences. They may have very similar exposure to political belief or literature that they read, etc. So I think as like an all in all, that's why I really have a very hard time with the effective idea of just like a one-to-one idea. The ghost also, with the coming back to what we were talking about at the top of the show too, with the brain, the neurosymbiosis and whatnot. That's something that develops over time. If it was something that was immediately given to the ghost and guardian, then I could understand the idea of a one-to-one symbiosis immediately. But because it takes time in order to develop, to me, that's where I think it more like the pirate code, where it's sort of like guidelines.
I
There's
love
your
that.
Disney reference.
Yeah, I love that.
But that's where I think it's in that general vicinity. I don't think it necessarily sticks to like, here's your one thing that you have to find ever. Otherwise, I really do think that they're, and I guess that's the one thing that could be maybe put into this, now that I think about it in an extra sort of idea. So maybe the Traveler programs a ghost with the perfect individual to find, but the ghost has that free roam to interpret that.
Yeah, and I can see that argument.
That I could see a little bit, but even then, when you start to introduce the ideas of free will, or you start to introduce the ideas of like a way to work around things, that goes right back to the same stance that you're kind of in. The Traveler may have given it a one-to-one example, but that doesn't mean the ghosts have to effectively follow it. That's where I think the idea of one-to-one just kind of falls flat. There are too many levels, I think, in that regard that kind of disprove that idea. Now, of course, if there is somebody that can officially tell me otherwise, that there's something out there, then sure. But even then, there may have been like a distinction or a narration change that happened over the course of time that needed more clarification from a writer that actually had something to do with that project, so on. Because we've got a lot of writers that are involved here. So to quote just one of them can be a little on the slippery side, when all of a sudden it's like, nah, man, we've got like 3 other guys that are involved in ghosts and whatnot.
Can we literally just read difference of opinion? Because it is that debate.
Yeah, no,
it's that debate.
Like
just up front.
I honestly think that not to toot my own horn, but I think I've gone between like all of the different layers that we could effectively look at for this one fairly well. There is an objective opinion, which we do not effectively see here in this regard. There is no objective piece of information that tells you exactly what you can find.
Right.
So what we are looking into is a subjective piece of information that you are taking from inference and idea. So that's where you need to start to kind of break down how information is again gathered. And this is something that is constantly brought up when it comes down to that information gathering ideas. I really, really, really will say, until I see something in writing specifically somewhere within the game, I'm going to have a really hard time believing anything that is told to me outside of it.
The funny
And I think
thing,
the only thing that I could end up, sorry, Green, the only thing I can really say that I'm okay with hearing after the fact has been when there is so much inference pushed on us with something like Dredgen Yor and Rezalazir that if you still don't believe that, I'm still going to look at you and say you're a nincompoop. And then when John Goff goes ahead and starts coming into it, the guy that wrote all of it, and simply states, no, Rezalazir is a Titan and he did turn into Dredgen Yor, you are a double nincompoop at that point.
a double nincompoop.
Double nincompoop. You heard it here.
This is where you're at that slippery slope level in a lot of rights, in a lot of ways. I get it. I get where we want to listen to outside sources, but I do have some issues when it's not actually placed in game as a definitive marker. I don't know if we'll even ever get a definitive marker for that, because in all honesty, we're sitting here debating this topic. It doesn't really matter.
No.
The whole thing story short of it all, it doesn't really matter.
And even in the lore itself, in the card difference of opinion, ghosts themselves debate this. It's meant to be a debate.
It's almost like reality. And the whole concept, yeah. I mean, Green, I think what the other thing too, with the difference of opinion that is, that just comes up to my mind is as soon as you enter free will into the picture, it doesn't matter.
Right.
It doesn't matter. That's the thing is if you're going to say that, it's got to be a binary system. It's either it's predetermined or it's not. Because as soon as it's not predetermined, as soon as you enter that paracausal, I'm using that word on purpose, that paracausal element that doesn't have to listen to causality, you throw any preconceived design out the window.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, and the thing is when you have repeated references to the Guardians as paracausal presences, that means that the ghosts are to a degree paracausal. They are resurrecting creatures who are dead. They are defying causality in that term. So, I mean, I like Beard. What you were saying is they could have been designed with one person in mind, but that doesn't mean that they're restricted to that one person. So,
I'm going to say, and just to jump in on that, the moment that they wrote the Tianchi cards, this argument completely becomes moot.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Well, yeah. I mean, yeah. Because you see the transference of a guardian from one ghost to another,
right?
Which if that's the case, then how is that even technically possible?
Right. I'm gonna say in general, you effectively look at what Tianchi is able to do, and again in that general aspect of how he's able to choose what he wants to do, He resurrected a baby. Okay, the free will aspect is effectively in there. And I again, this is why I wanted to bring up all of those points and topics and so on that are listed as they are, because it could be a programming in how the Traveler wanted it to be, but reality can be a very different idea. Kind of like how if we really want to ascribe to the idea of religion as a whole, there may be a greater being that created humanity, if we just want to focus on Earth as it is, that effectively produced us and turned us into what we are. And if they're looking at us right now, they're like, man, I did not expect this to go the way that it did. It's just in the same kind of vicinity, or in the same as the alien theorists may end up saying, we're a great experiment, if you will, in that regard. But we have that ideas and so on free will, and I think that really does kind of alter and change how things kind of feel. But I don't know. I really have a hard time thinking that there's a definitive one-to-one that they have to follow. And again, Tianchi alone pretty well proves the point that they don't have to follow it. whether that's the traveler's goal or not, whether that's God's goal or not, for us to fit into certain realming and so on.
Mm-hmm.
And obviously that didn't happen.
Right, and that kind of ties back. I mean, that's an easy correlation because we see the ascription of the traveler to a deity in the Golden Age. I mean, that's I mean, that was the whole thing with Moon X, and the whole the riots that were happening when Ares 1 was launched. You know, that's the. I mean, yeah, that hits the crux of the entire debate between humanity about the traveler.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, even Green's right. It's even between the ghosts themselves. Like, you see that with Balthazar and Peach. Like, they have very vastly different views on what exactly their purpose is. I mean, and then you have ghosts like Link and Ren, and then you have ghosts like Kaiser, who have very, very different views. There's I think but again, in my mind, as soon as you start putting free will into a picture, predeterminism kind of just falls flat because you can't have it. You can't have it.
As far as a 1-to-1, once that guardian is resurrected.
Yes. Now that piece, so that goes back to Tianqi's situation, where I think that the 1-to-1 is established between the true, what I would refer to as a true resurrection, and then the going forward that ghost doesn't have the. I mean, I just view them as basically capacitors or batteries. They don't have the ability to do that particular action again. They can recharge to a degree, but they don't have the ability to spark a life in the same sense that they do when they do a true resurrection. So that's where you kind of get an explanation of Shin with Tianqi, is if that it was Shin that Tianqi rezzed, then it's entirely possible that Jiren's ghost could take over afterwards. Shin doesn't have the same situation as Eris, arguably. We don't know that for sure either. I mean, this is all based off an inference too, to be fair there. But it does seem like, there is a degree in which Jiren's ghost kind of takes over the responsibility of caring for Shin. I kind of would argue that's a pretty strong inference there, because you hear mentions of them, traveling to Mercury and exploring and learning about how to channel the light into the golden gun and stuff like that. I think that part, and that makes sense too, because once the initial spark has been lit, it would follow that it wouldn't take as much necessarily energy to resurrect him, which also then would go as far to explain the in-game mechanic of darkness zones, because they don't have that full capacity anymore. I mean, there's just a lot that I think is explained if you look at it that way. But I agree with you completely. The 1-to-1 does definitely exist after they've been resurrected. But I think the determination of, who is resurrected, I think that's entirely pretty much up to the ghost. I've taken it. I mean, I see it as any relationship. You have a choice of who you want to be in a relationship with. If, they're compatible, they're compatible. And the ghosts just, their relationship is existing on a slightly different level than, in reality, our relationships do. Is all that's kind of how I've always seen it, and it just makes the most sense to me.
I'm going to say I still ascribe the idea of maybe a blueprint given to them.
Right, yeah.
But
I mean, there's
really
qualifiers.
It would end.
I mean, the qualifier is basically, hey, they're able to wield the light as a weapon. Oh, okay.
Right.
I mean, that's a pretty wide net to that's a pretty wide filter. Whereas,
which maybe it's not in some respects. Granted, there are.
Well, no, I mean, given the number of Guardians that we see, the number of Risen that we see, you also see a lot of the Risen not doing such great things, and for again going back to it goes back to how sadistic is the Traveler then?
Yeah.
Because if you're telling me with a straight face, if you're telling me with a straight face that the Traveler has determined every single ghost with a specific guardian, okay, so then the Traveler is specially set up Reslazir, specially set up all the Shadows of Yore, especially set up all the warlords that did atrocities to humanity throughout the story. I mean, that's all on the Traveler's shoulders. And you at the same time are expecting us to say that the Traveler is quote unquote the good person. It's again, which do you want your cake or do you want to eat it? Because that to me is the implications there of a predeterminate world. And then you also can't say that, the Guardians are unable to be calculated by the Vex because they don't follow causality. Like there's just
we are paracausal in exercise free will.
Right. Which again goes back to, as soon as you enter free will into a model, it gunks everything up as far as predetermination.
Speaking of the Vex, just like you end up introducing any kind of time invested in anything or time travel specifically, then it's pretty well out the door as well.
Right.
That's the other piece of it too, is maybe the Traveler did have a 1-to-1 and the Vex timey-wimey stuff ended up screwing with it,
Right. I mean,
really reach for something else that allows for that to still fit. The whole point of it is that this is a topic that is so broad, and to the overall, I guess, general point of how Guardians effectively are, unfortunately, again, doesn't mean a whole ton.
Right.
Because we have the Guardians that are produced, we have the Guardians that fight, we have the ones that still are basically like the black sheep, if you will, and then we have the ones like Shin, who has ascribed that he's a little bit more like on the side of like gray and so on. These are just pieces that I still say and still feel like we are always kind of skirting those gray lines very much within this game and its lore. That's pretty well I would say the entire impetus behind the lore and the writing that's given to us. Hey, just make this really unclear, okay? Just make it so that it's like kind of muddied in terms of like, I don't mean it as unclear as like not giving you enough info, but like make it so that it questions like what side you want to be on or where you want to be. That's where I've always liked about it.
So kind of like reality.
Yeah, I'm gonna say kind of like reality. And I know that I don't know if he's still in chat, but like Viru and I were talking about this earlier too. Especially the implications of time as well. One thing that I seem to always get into in cases of time and how time passes within Destiny or how it handles in Destiny. I kind of made the joke to him, but really it wasn't a joke. Just add more time on to the back end of the game. Because we constantly see like the timeline that we have keep getting pushed back further and further and further. Like, how far really does Destiny go back to that it starts? And it's getting to the point where it's almost like Big Bang levels, It is one of those things where we can, if something doesn't make sense within your current view, then you need to, as Tyra will say, test it against a crucible of evidence. And if that evidence will effectively be helped or spread a little bit further by new information that you can grasp onto, then so be it. Add it into your current theories. Why not? But at end of the day, like that's it. These are theories that I think that we're all kind of postulating out there right now anyway.
Yeah. And I mean, and this is like the fun part of what we do on the weekly basis too.
Yeah, absolutely.
Is the Socratic process here that is going on. So, I mean, by all means, if there's those of you who are, listening to this after the fact or, even down the road, please, I know I'm more than welcome to hear different points of view. And I think that I speak for Green and Beard that's the case for them as well. Because ultimately that's the thing, right? It's a thought exercise. It's a Socratic, exploration of a game. So yeah, I mean, but yeah, definitely.
I mean, there's also a respectful way to do it. And
well, right. Yeah.
As well.
Right.
I mean, that's the other piece of it that some don't seem to necessarily understand, I think, anymore.
Right. Yeah. There's no need for flame wars. No need for flaming, but yeah, definitely. Green, I know we kept jumping in on top of you, and I apologize.
No, you're good. No, I am debating in chat. Like, you guys are doing your thing in there, and I'm continuing the debate in chat, and we're having a lore off.
Yeah.
It is a good Friday night.
Yes, it is.
It is a good Friday night.
I don't. Was there anything else really? I know this was kind of an amorphous topic, actually.
Yeah.
I know Green messaged me and she's like, I don't know what we're going to talk about. I'm like, oh, I have an idea.
I mean, we have all sorts of different things. It's such a broad topic. And that's the thing. Whenever these topics come up and it's so broad and it's not like oriented around cards specifically, it's like, all right, we're gonna mosey down the trail.
I was about to say, how big of a tangent are we going to get on?
I mean, I think that it's not so big of a tangent. I don't think anything that we've talked about, because it all relates back to the relationship between the guardian and the ghost.
Oh yeah, yeah.
So I think we are definitely still on topic, even if it is a Spinfoil, and we haven't had a good Spinfoil type, or at least debate or Socratic kind of episode in a while. So it's nice to get one of these in there every once in a while.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I'm gonna say, and I think with a topic this broad too, it's a video I've wanted to make now for like the last 6-7 months, which, you know, go figure, that's pretty well my catalog of videos anymore. It's in my head. But it's something that I wanted to cover as like a broad idea, like the topics and the themes of Destiny. Because I feel like we talk about those more often on here as well. We kind of get into like what's the theme that is sort of acquiesced to the topic that we're talking about. And in terms of this one, you know, you start talking about ghosts. Ghosts are everywhere. Ghosts have dealt with so much from like the collapse and onward that it is such a broad topic of information that we can kind of look into. So for me, I think that's one of the major things that I like looking at more than anything is like the themes of Destiny. And also kind of like weeding out the ones that either don't necessarily push or matter too much for right now, but the ones that are still important to remember as we go forward. Because there is stuff at this point that I never thought we would be talking about again, and we are talking about it again. And that seems to be more and more of a recurring thing, I think, with every expansion that gets released. So think about the themes of Destiny as well whenever you kind of look into the general lore of something as broad as like ghosts and their guardians. Because I think overall that kind of helps to sequester information a little bit easier, put it into a certain place that needs to be there, or to help you to organize it, if not mentally, then maybe on like a sheet of paper. But that's what I've always liked about broader topics like these, for sure.
Green, did you have anything other than really that major debate?
No, I really didn't. Not so much.
You want to be nice to everyone and call it a short episode?
I am totally down for calling it a short episode, because I mean we gave a lot of information, and I'm sure next week's topic, what is next week's topic?
Devil May Cry.
Right.
Green's so excited for it. Don't let her fool you.
Well, I'm excited in so much that I have role played with a few people who role play Devil May Cry characters. So I'm
Devil May Cry it's a good story. I like it.
It is. It's just it's less convoluted than some of our former extra lores.
That is actually pretty true for as potentially convoluted as it could have been.
My fault. I did that.
Not just you.
No.
You.
Like the
not just Nier, not just Final Fantasy.
No, like the world,
not just
like
Zelda.
even in the explanation of the world, you're like, oh, this could have gone a lot of different ways.
Yes.
Like, thank you for not taking it that direction.
Oh God.
Except for that spin-off game, but
DMC. Well, Ninja Theory.
Yeah, DMC Devil May Cry could have gone down a lot of places that it didn't need to.
Yeah. Thankfully, they left that in the alt universe where it should be.
Yeah, like the non-silver-haired Dante.
Oh,
anyway.
Yeah. Oh, my God. That was so confusing.
Everybody's throwing a fit about that, though.
I'm going to say, I'll never do this. Goes into Devil Trigger mode. Oh, you've got silver hair. Now what? Anyway, I feel like we're getting geared up already for...
That's all right. That's all right. We have got some good stuff up ahead. We've got a lot of stuff to discuss, and I think a shorter episode is not necessarily a less quality episode.
No, I definitely don't.
Not
by
at all.
any stretch.
We definitely don't want to fill it in stuff.
Exactly.
What? You do? No.
I mean, I might have too many rants that I could go down.
I think Beard's feeling better this week from the sound of it.
No, I'm just so tired that I don't know what end is up anymore.
You're just numb at this point.
That's exactly what it is, but at least it's like a numb that I can... My brain is still somewhat working, so there's that. I guess I'm not too bad off, but like, can somebody just make the pain end now? Anyway, that got dark.
He's okay. We love you.
So shoutouts.
Yes. Shout out to Lux Regalia for his solo clear of the Thorn Strike by himself.
Oh my gosh.
And getting retweeted by DMG.
Yeah,
Man,
I saw that and I was like, oh my god.
That absolute madman.
Yeah.
And
how long did it take him? Do you know?
It took him... I don't have the exact time on my head, but I know that he was working on it while I was playing, so it must have been 4 or 5 hours.
Oh, there's just a point in time where you go, you know what? I got other things I gotta do.
I mean,
maybe I should just get 2 friends.
I challenged him, so it's kind of I mean, I said he couldn't do it, and Lux doesn't take a... I mean, it's...
You owe him like 3 hours of his life back.
It's fine.
I told him that he couldn't do it.
Yeah, that's exactly what it is. I told him he couldn't do it, and then he did. And that is about Lux in a nutshell. But shout out to him and to Issacol for doing all the work on the poll that she put out last week about the ghost, because she did a ton of data analysis figuring out whether or not the color of the ghost that we saw in last week's Invitation to the Nine correlated to anything when it came to our choice with between the Vanguard and Drifter, or our subclass, or a whole slew of different other aspects. And she put a ton of work into that, and super appreciative of it. So those are my 2 shout-outs this week.
Beard, what about you?
I can't give the shout-outs I want to because I'll insult an entire country, or at least the government of that country.
Great
so I'll just leave
looking
that
at you.
out.
Bye.
Yeah, it's like,
oh my god.
Selecting a choice is really difficult.
Oh my god, you're talking about that? That was hilarious. Oh,
I don't know if hilarious is the proper word for it, but I know what you mean.
Oh my, it's like, I remember reading it, I was like, seriously, you had one job? Like, just saying it. I'm like, what? How?
All honesty,
I mean,
as an elected official, like, I really don't want to make this political, but honestly, if this hasn't come up in one point of your conversation throughout the week, then I don't know when it did or when it could have. But, like, long story short on this end, if you are an elected official and you are not, 1, acting in the best interest of the people that you are representing, and 2, you are not looking and reading over the stuff that you are actually supposed to be doing
and actively voting on at the time,
then you probably shouldn't hold that position of power in any way, shape, or form. You need to consider resigning, you need to consider stepping down, and you need to allow for understanding that, maybe I'm getting older or too unnecessarily incognizant to understand what is going on with my life anymore.
Now, that being said, Great Britain is not the only country that has done this.
No, it's not.
That is not
not at all.
That is not at all.
I mean, we have just as many.
We have plenty of examples that we can pick from on this side of the.
I mean, I'm saying this from, of course, an overall standpoint that I'm seeing a lot of stuff worldwide that is just driving it absolutely insane.
Yeah,
but if I have to give a shout out that actually matters overall, it's to the people that are within these countries right now, which is sounding like South Africa, anywhere within EU, and so be it as well with like Great Britain, UK. and then also with continued with China and so on, of course, too. Just good on you for trying to keep up with everything, and good on you to try to keep your chin up. Because quite frankly, right now, if you don't see where the world's headed right now with the positions of power that are there, then
it's
really
just
concerned.
Remain vigilant.
Yeah, like I'm really concerned with what you're allowing for. I'm all for government regulation when it matters, but my goodness, when things get to be this point, when we start to go up against fair use and you start going up against the possibility of stuff like freedom
parodies
of speech, or when you're going up against frickin' parody, then at that point you're going up against comedy. Like I don't know how else to generally say this. Like this is I could go on for this topic obviously for hours alone.
Right. No. Well, and it's something that, given where we three are and, in the States, it's a right that a lot of us have, I'll be kind of blunt, have taken for granted. Absolutely. And it's something that these events recently, namely Article 13, to kind of narrow in on that particular one, is it's a very stark reminder that, because you take something for granted doesn't mean that it's going to always be there if you're not paying attention, or like what Green's saying is stay vigilant, and that's a healthy reminder in general, just for not just politics, for just anything. Like you just pay attention to what's going on around you. Right. But yeah, the Article 13 thing is, if you're not aware of what's going on with that, I really encourage you to, go definitely educate yourself on it, because it's a slippery slope. For a lot of different reasons, namely number one being for most of the ones that we interact with, content creators are getting severely impacted by this, but even more so, or the implication
will entirely be when it goes
wiped
into
out.
Effect.
Yeah. I mean, so it's a very big deal. And I would really encourage, if you're not familiar with what Article 13 is, definitely either reach out to someone who is going to be, encountering that, or do some research and figure it out, and, just educate yourself on that, because it's also something that I hate saying this, but if it happens there, it's not impossible that, things can happen anywhere. So vigilance is important.
And in general, like I've heard so many that are like, it happened over in the EU, at least as it just is showcasing Article 13 for this particular instance. And I've heard some of the people that I hang around, either at work or otherwise, and they're like, well, it's not going to impact us because we're over here. And I look at them and I go, oh, no. Like it impacts the internet as a greater whole, because people don't want to be fined that stuff, and either region coded or otherwise means that you're still going to have silencing and censorship put in play.
Oh,
that's just it.
Yeah, and that's the sad thing about where the internet is currently, is it's relatively still young. I mean, that's the thing I think that a lot of people overlook with the internet, is we're talking about
it's 20 years old, maybe. Obviously it's a bit older than that, but as far as mass consumption,
I think mass consumption wise, I think that's probably a pretty accurate field, like a pretty accurate summary.
20 to 25, right?
Yeah. But to put it in perspective, and I know Green and Beard are probably the same, I can remember when the internet wasn't there.
Yep.
So that's what I mean, is this is something that is important, because it is still developing. It is something that is still, and I know that a lot of times, again, not that this is said negatively, but we take things for granted, and we just assume that the way things are now are going to be the way things are always. And that's a very human thing. So we'll probably spend some time in an after show talking about this, because I want to wrap this up before we spend another hour, because we can totally spend another hour talking about this topic. But
again, I try to keep things non-political as possible.
Oh no, I'm right there with you.
If there is any time for me to bring something up, between the last couple of months, there are a couple of things I can think of that I could probably count on my hands that are really worthwhile talking about. And this one just gives the big giant red flag that it just any point in case that I can go ahead and spread awareness on it, I think it's worthwhile. So,
yeah.
If you sat through us ranting about it, thank you.
Yeah. Well, yeah. And I mean, again, I think that it's definitely an opportunity too for those who might not be aware of what's going on outside of the world that they know. It's definitely an opportunity to broaden your horizons and see what's going on.
Right.
Beard, did you have any other shout outs?
No, I'll keep it there. I've used my time speaker. I can see the rest of the story.
I'm offended. You referred to me as a speaker. What?
I mean, are you the speaker of our house?
Oh,
bad joke.
So many ways that I could go. My shout out really is actually our good friend here, Green, was actually on a show this week. That was more beneficial to us than I think some people might realize, because we have a new little AI friend that we're trying out, and I think I broke him.
We're gonna work on it.
Yeah, that's why I have a backup. That's why I do backups. But yeah, so hopefully we have gotten a heads up on a new tool for the Discord recording of the chat. And a big shout out to, I think it's the Destiny show. Is that right?
Yes.
Green? So
with Cornholio and Shadow Price and Dark Angel 98. I believe Shadow Price and Cornholio the majority of the time, and Dark Angel is kind of their lore person that comes in every once in a while. But cool. Yeah.
And when is that getting released? That episode?
It got released today.
Okay, cool. So I will. Can you get me a link and I'll put that in the show notes?
I can.
Perfect.
I will certainly do that.
Awesome. So yeah, big shout out to them. And again, big thank you to them for kind of cluing us in on a new bot, because everyone knows how much I love Discord bots.
Better than Discord rooms.
Yeah, I don't know. That's a tough one. But yeah, so big shout out to them, and a big shout out, just for Green being able to find some time between soccer momming the.
Oh my gosh. The puppies.
The puppies. I love that tweet. For those of you who are soccer moms, I have a whole new level of appreciation.
No kidding. Yeah, they're better. If you're a soccer mom, my heart goes out to you.
Or a parent in general, because
yes,
that's the. Oh yep. Man. So yeah, we'll see you guys next week. Like I said, next week will be for the extra lore content for March, which was Devil May Cry. I have started compiling notes there. If you guys want me to specifically talk about a particular topic, let me know, and I will be sure to work it into my show notes. But other than that, you guys have a great night, and like I said, we'll see you next week. With that, we'll begin to wrap the chat up. Thank you again to those over on Twitch for coming to spend your evening with us. If you'd like to join us for the live streaming of the episodes, please be sure to give us a follow over on twitch.tv/focusedfirechat. Links to all our episode archives can also be found at www.focusedfirechat.com. Please be sure to email us at focusedfirechat@gmail.com with any comments or questions for our team concerning the podcast, and let us know how we're doing by giving us some feedback and a rating over on iTunes as well. Also, be sure to check out all the amazing work being featured over on thelorenetwork.com. So until next time, focus your fire, and may your light shine bright.